Hello, my name is Ignacio,
My name is Juan.
Hello, my name is Melody.
and today we're going to be talking about the famous movie The Joker and how it reflects the famous dilemma of the individual versus society. So, this presentation will be divided into three parts. First, Melody will be talking about the Joker as the individual and who constantly struggles against the environment until he finally breaks into madness. Then, Juan and me will state the role society plays into well, shaping a person, in this case, the Joker, and finally transforming him into a villain. And then finally, Juan will outline how the case of the Joker can be applied to our world. Now, to start off, this dilemma was a very controversial and very recurrent issue in philosophical debates, since many philosophers have given different answers to the nature of this relation between individual and society. The Joker is a recent film by Todd Phillips, released just in 2019, that talks about the descent of a man called Arthur Fleck into madness, or the Joker. Now, this film is a perfect example, we think, of the dilemma that I stated before, as it generates the question in the viewer of, is the Joker an evil villain, or just a victim? So, in this presentation, we will argue that society is to be blamed for creating the figure of the Joker, and then after this we will state how the relation between individuals and society shown in this film could be applied to the real world.
First, I will elaborate on the idea that the gaze of others is harmful. The Joker suffers from what he calls a condition. He is subject to an uncontrollable laugh whenever he faces a stressful social situations. But without the presence of others, there would be no stressful social situations and therefore no medical condition. Sartre stated, hell is other people. According to Sartre, self awareness is deeply related to the presence of others. Without others, I cannot be sure of my own existence. In Being and Nothingness, Sartre elaborates on the idea that whenever you make eye contact with someone, you see him as a subject while you are seeing yourself as an object. I understand that I am seen as I could never see myself, which leads you to take a critical look at yourself. You see yourself from others' perspective. As a result, you might experience shame. Sartre uses the example of looking through a keyhole. While doing so, you're totally absorbed by what you're looking at to make any judgment of yourself. However, if someone arrives at that moment and sees you spying on a private conversation, suddenly you are ashamed. Without others, I have no personal attributes. I am not courageous nor a coward, and I am not generous nor selfish. But the gaze of others forced me to look at myself from their eyes and assimilate their judgment as who I am. This is why hell is other people. The Joker clearly experiences this. A scene in the movie shows him sitting on a bus. In front of him is a child. The Joker makes faces to make the child laugh, but when the mother turns around with an accusatory look, his action, very spontaneous and selfless, is transformed as he takes the mother's perspective on the situation and automatically feels like a creep and starts laughing.
So now we're going to talk about society's role in Arthur's descent into the Joker, which could be compared to a person's alienation due to society. Society is responsible for an individual's personality, much like parents are responsible for a child's education and formation. When a person is born, the first social influence is their family, which, along with genetics and other more scientific aspect to which I will not get into, shape a person's values, beliefs, and overall personality. Then, as the person grows, he becomes part of society, which takes the role of the parents in the individual family, shaping his future and motivating his actions. Now, we are often told that humans are free beings which can choose whatever they want to do, but is this necessarily true? And can we apply this to all humans? A man's ideas are not only regulated by himself, but also by the standards, rules, and limits that a society imposes. We could look at the relationship between society and the individuals. in different ways. Two very popular approaches are the ones of Hobbes and Rousseau. Hobbes states that human beings are evil and naturally desire the power to live well, and that they will never be satisfied with the power they have without acquiring more of it. In his famous book Leviathan, he argues that society is an absolute sovereign that rules over people. But in the case of the Joker, we will have to look at Rousseau's point of view.
Now, according to Rousseau, society corrupts what he calls the pure individual. Now, for Rousseau, the savage, or the most well, the nature of humans, is not selfish, as Hobbes says, but well, since their abilities, well, to be selfish, is a result of our interactions with others. So society is what corrupts the individual. This is relevant in the case of Arthur Fleck, as his environment is filled with negativity and degradation, which is what eventually makes him into the Joker. And he is a character that is willingly placed in a very tough situation. His mother is delusional. He doesn't have a father. He was beat up when he was young. He has a mental illness also, that Melody described earlier on, and also the government will cut the funding to his treatment. So all these different factors basically pile up, making him more and more miserable, until finally he just bursts and breaks and just rebels against the system. Now, Aristotle stated that man is a social animal. This means that we need to live in a group and coexist with each other. We need constant recognition from other people. And Arthur, when Arthur becomes the Joker, well, this is the reason why he becomes the Joker. He is constantly neglected by others, and he's considered a freak due to his mental illness. He admires characters such as Murray Franklin, which is in the movie a famous host of a show, or Thomas Wayne, a very wealthy character who is loved by many businessmen and wealthy people in the movie. Basically, these people, instead of accepting him as he is, and they just ignore him and treat him like an inferior. Now, before, Juan stated that what shapes a person is the rules, values, and standards of the society in which he lives in. Now, in this film, we can see how these collective standards are another main cause to the Joker's misery. And well, for example, he is considered, like I said before, a freak due to his mental illness, and he is laughed at because of it. He's not considered normal. But then again, who can say what is or isn't normal, or what should be right or wrong? Now, this idea is reflected perfectly in a scene in the Joker, when the Joker is interviewed after his transformation into the Joker, from Arthur Fleck into the Joker. He is interviewed in a show hosted by Murray Franklin, in which he tells, confesses that he shot 3 businessmen in a train, and then laughs about it as if it was some sort of joke. Obviously, the people, the viewers, and Murray Franklin don't have a really good reaction to it, and they're shocked. But he responds saying, "You decide what's right or wrong, the same way that you decide what's funny or what isn't. If it was me lying in the pavement dead, you would just walk right over me." And well, society, this makes us think that society, in a way, is what decides what should and shouldn't be done in some cases, which can lead to some individuals being unheard or alienated. And I'm not trying to justify what the Joker did. I'm just saying that it's saying something is good or bad is much harder than it looks. Another very important point that Rousseau makes to support his statement of the pure individual is that the problem of society arises with capitalism and private property. And if the Joker is anything, is a film that is a very big critique towards capitalism and our society, which is full of materialism and consumerism. Now, in the movie, Arthur writes a joke that says, "I just hope my death makes more sense than my life." Now, this is a clear example of what I was saying, that some people just value money over anything else. And this is another reason why Joker and society, why Arthur is influenced by society to become the Joker finally. So we could conclude that in Joker's case, we could agree with Rousseau's point of view and say that the system, if you want to call it that, or society, is the actual reason and the cause of Arthur's descent into the Joker.
So now it is undeniable that society and the environment in which a person lives plays a role in the evolution of an individual's personality. But this doesn't mean that society is fully responsible for a person's actions. Like Aristotle said, humans are social by nature, and they are the ones that make society what it is. Therefore, there is a direct relationship between the two. So society shapes people and people shape society. An individual living in a certain system has both a dependence on the system of social standards and an autonomy that is essential for the development and formation of the system. But the measure of a person's autonomy largely depends on the type of system an individual is in. In the case of the Joker, it was almost impossible for him to get out of his situation due to his mental illness, his family issues, and the government cutting his treatments. But this shouldn't be the case for all humans. We could we happen in what would happen in a real life situation. What I guess would happen is that people would comprehend better situations like the one of the Joker. Therefore, the Joker could suffer from syndromes and therefore is accepted in a different way than the film actually shows. Today, if we see someone in the street laughing nonstop, it's obvious that we will always laugh. It's human. It's completely normal. But people might respond in a more positive way than it showed in the film, which is more of a negative way. With this said, we need to understand that, as I mentioned before, societies and people are a linked bond that can never be separated in the sense that our actions mostly represent what we see and learn from others. It's a process, however, eventually society will, and I believe it is currently learning how to respect others, because as years pass, we realize that society is strongly influences individuals. After watching the film, we realized that society is to blame for the Joker's actions. However, we could argue that in the real world, this is not always the case. Now I'm gonna pass my word to Melody, which is gonna do the conclusion.
In this presentation, we have discussed that a person's view of himself depends on how he is perceived by others. As Sartre explains it, it is through the eyes of others that we start existing, m- making their view of us the ultimate definition of who we are. What's more, we address the issue of a society that goes against its members' well being, as society can be alienating. The Joker was deprived by society of his own humanity. This idea is illustrated by Rousseau's conception of society, an institution that turns pure individual into corrupted individual. Finally, we applied the situation of the Joker to the real world, stating that although society does have the potential to ruin a person's life, this is not always the case. Thus, we can reaffirm what was said in the beginning. Society is responsible for turning a helpless individual into the evil figure of the Joker, and that, in the Joker's case, society is responsible for it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.